Hi, in this quick video tutorial, we're going to find out how to see users and groups with folders and share permissions in the network. Many a times, the biggest challenge for administrators is to have a see-through mechanism or an out-of-the-box reports to find out share permissions on the network or generally just the shares. So that being said, what if there was an out-of-the-box straightforward way of doing this? I'm going to quickly log into ADManager Plus. The tool comes with quite a bunch of pre-built reports. In this case, our interest is NTFS and share permissions. So I'm going to quickly get to the file server reports or NTFS reports. The first report that I'd want to generate is the shares in servers report. So this would list all the shares that are available on my network and also give me details as to who's got what level of permissions, and it's quite granular. So the example that I'm going to take is one of my file servers. All right, let's say that one is a file server. I'm going to quickly say generate report, and that gives me instant access to all the shares on that specific server. So I've got corporate files and resources headquarters shared. That is one share that is of value to me. So I've got quite an insight on who is got what permissions. There you go. This is exactly what I was talking about. I've got the users or groups that have access to this share. And in fact, if I were to consider it at a folder level, I very much have access to who's got what permissions at a folder level. So this is the folder permissions right there for this specific share. All right. Is that quite enough? Just share permissions aren't essentially going to be enough when you're trying to manage your infrastructure, files and folders and resources. You'd very much need to know what the NTFS permissions are to see how users can essentially access these shares or files or resources. And that's exactly why you would want to use another out-of-the-box report. Again, this time NTFS reports permissions for folders in your environment. So the last folder that I had interest on was the corporate data folder. I'm going to quickly get into that and select corporate files and resources and then say OK and say generate. When I hit generate, I'm going to get access to all the users, and in fact not just users but also groups that have folder access to this specific corporate data folder. So here you go. It also goes on to list the individual members of this specific group, thereby making it very straightforward, clear, and gives me a see-through to check who's got what level of privileges. When I say advanced, I would know the level of privileges that a specific user has. And one thing that we need to know is when I hit generate with parent folder level set, that's just going to be the first level of privileges or permissions. What if I want to get in depth and find out permissions for all subfolders inside the corporate data folder? There you go, you've got an out of the box option for that. You could very much do a custom level or say all subfolders instead, and notice that now at the parent level it's just 6 users or groups that have access, and when I do all subfolders that is going to become 7. And did you notice the change? This time additionally the HR managers also have access. And how did this happen? That is basically because there was a specific folder which was private, and that folder was just shared or made accessible to the HR since it's the payroll data. So it gives me quite a see through into the levels. It gives me quite a see through on the parent folder and subfolders alike. And in fact, since I would at any given point in time want to get hold of all the user data, I have members also listed at the very same table. So it doesn't stop right here. If someone wants to drill down deep and be very specific with respect to the users or groups that have access to folders, they can very much pinpoint that and say which user or which group is of their interest. In this case, my interest is going to be HR managers. I'm going to quickly look up for HR. I've got these two employees who are part of the HR group, or I could very much select the entire group. right here and just say HR managers and select the folder of my interest, in this case the corporate files and resources, and check what access that the HR have and say generate. And this would give me access to a report that tells me what exact file or folder is shared. In this case, it's the payroll data. Since it's the HR department, they should have direct access, and it's just them, not other users other than the administrators who have access to it. And I get a very clear picture on why this is set up so. Alright, so this is one nifty report to find out what permissions that an individual user or a group have. And in fact, to conclude this video, this is a cool report that you'd want to get hold of: the non-inheritable folders. So the previous instance, when we were talking about HR having privileges for the payroll folder, which was a private folder under the corporate data folder, that was an example of non-inheritance. Not everybody had access or same access to that folder. Here you go. So the same corporate data folder generated, and if you can see, you are able to understand that this is a non-inheritable folder, and it's just the HR who has privileges. So likewise, there could be very many non-inheritable folders in your organization, and you wouldn't essentially want to go one folder at a time or one share at a time and find out who's got what privileges. Instead, use out-of-the-box reports for finding out the shares, for finding out who's got access on what folders, to finding out which user or group has access to what folders, and also get hold of reports for non-inheritance. Watch out for the next video where we discuss as to how easy it is to manage shares in servers and permissions for folders.